शक्यतो काय करायचं गरम करायचं तुझं वेळ
खेळतोय का? अशी त्यांचे 4 विकेट पडले.
ऑलरेडी सुरू
ती पण करते ती पण करते माझ्याशी डोकं लावणार तू
ती मॅच लाव ना. खेळतोय का? अशी त्यांचे 4 विकेट पडले.
ऑलरेडी सुरू
ती पण करते ती पण करते माझ्याशी डोकं लावणार तू
ती मॅच लाव ना. खेळतोय का? अशी त्यांचे 4 विकेट पडले.
ऑलरेडी सुरू
ती पण करते ती पण करते माझ्याशी डोकं लावणार तू
ती मॅच लाव ना.
Hello. 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 I am audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hello. Okay, so today we will do the risk assessment. So we'll start the quiz. I had posted the quiz link. So you all can start the quiz now. When we are done, please let me know.
Sir, I am done.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait for just 1 minute and we'll see all others.
Sir, is there a streak like who got the highest like that streak?
You want to know who done the highest?
Yeah, because like whenever we're doing in between, there was a streak coming and people's name was coming in like first and second place like that.
We'll see. Wait, let everyone finish, then we'll see. Okay, so we'll start the session now. If everyone is done. I am audible? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
I'm audible, na?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll start the session now. All the MCQs are solved, questions solved.
So before, can you tell who got like the highest score?
That I will show you. Wait 1 minute. I will share the screen. Okay, you can see the screen now.
Yeah.
So this is the see this one going on. Players' names are coming. You can see the score also. Visible?
Are they playing or are they done?
I think they are almost done. I think.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll start our session today. So, what is risk? Who knows the risk? Who will talk? What do you understand by the risk? What is the full form of the risk? I send the message in the group also. You know? Okay. So we say this is a real, ignorant, suspect knowledge. What do you mean? So anything which we are potential to get harmed or have some effect on our own self or to the nature or to the nearby. So in this case, we are already aware. We have got not the knowledge. We know the suspicion, but because of some ignorance or some factors which is real in nature, so we get the effect. So there is a risk. So most of the time, the risk and the hazard, they are interchangeable. They both are considered same while thinking. Like example, if I'm driving a bicycle on a road, so what will be the risk and what will be the hazard? Risk is I'm driving. Hazard can be anything on the road, on the side, on the cycle, or the way of driving. Understood this point? So you can see this picture. Are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Can you think in this? What this photo is showing? What are the hazards going on? Can you talk someone? What you can see in this? Anything danger or anything?
One risk could be the lady who was putting that thing up at the back. She has a risk of falling.
Correct. Very good. And what about this girl taking some orange color in the hand? So few factors are there in this photo. Correct. Now, what about this?
Sir.
Sir, one man is throwing the pen. Can
Okay.
also enter the other man's eyes. The coffee is spilled and the lady which is carrying the tray can slip.
Correct. Very good. So
Sir,
means in
the
this
plant pot can fall on that lady's head because
correct. So many things are there, correct? So in this way, we need to identify the things, what can be risk, what can be hazard. So I will show you this video now. If you see the audible. Now see in this Tom and Jerry type. He is trying to assess the risk for himself by making sure the rope is tight completely so that if this dog barks and try to catch him, he will be safe. He is analyzing the risk completely, making sure he will be safe. So now he evaluated by himself by going at some distance, if he hit the dog, whether he will be caught or not, or there will be danger for him. So he evaluated the things. What understood from this video?
the dog, he tried to fool him. He made another line before only so that he would be able to catch him, and he rubbed
Correct.
the before.
Because he was not having the update about the risk, so he not did the assessment of the risk. That's why he was caught. So what things we do in the risk? First, we need to understand what is the risk, how it is involved, how it can affect us. Then we have to assess the risk. So we will do understanding of the risk, assessment of the risk, how to manage the risk, then protection from the same. So these 4 points are very important. Now, in this, there is one formula with us given by Dr. Ram. So RAM, Dr. Ram and RAM. It is recognize the process of the risk, issues, fear, harm. We first need to recognize what is there. Then analyze or assess, means what possible can happen, how it will happen, what will happen. So analyzing the things. So RA. Now M. We have to manage the risk with the process, follow-up, protocols, or the system. Like what steps we can take to solve the problem. So RAM. Always remember, any process in the life, anything which we do, we can do by these 3 things. RAM. Then comes the MMR. What is MMR? Mind. M for mind. Our mind. We need to make our mind strong, sharp, to think, to act. Then comes this money, because this from the finance point, so that's why we involved here money. Then the risk. We can say the management. Mind, money, management, risk. So this is the way we need to think about the process and we need to do the things. So this video, just see what is the risk.
What is a risk? In this video, we are not going to talk about the definition of risk, because that is not the issue. Just pick one. Here you go. Risk is an effect of uncertainty on objectives. The main issue is that during risk sessions, confusions will arise on the sequence: risk, causes, and effects. When is something a risk? And when is something a cause or an effect? Don't worry, let's explain this step by step. Most important is that risks have an effect on objectives. Consequently, if you don't have objectives defined, then it is not very useful to identify risks. Let's take Charlie, for example. One of his daily objectives is to arrive at work in time. With this objective in mind, what risks do you see? In other words, what undesirable events can happen that will hinder Charlie from arriving at work safely and on time? One might say heavy rain, but is this a risk? Heavy rain causes a decrease in road visibility, and that in turn causes an accident. that accident will cause Charlie to be late for work. Let's investigate this event tree. The difficult part is to pinpoint which event we identify as the risk. The last event, being late for work, is the objective. Well, it's the opposite of what you want to achieve, but it's directly linked. So we cannot say that being late for work is the risk. The question is, what caused you to be late? In this case, it is you being involved in an accident. We can then identify this cause of the objective as a risk. The effect of the risk having an accident is being late for work, and the cause of the risk is decreased visibility of the road. The accident has a direct effect on the objective, while heavy rain is an indirect cause. You could also identify more causes and effects for the same risk. Let's try another one. So someone mentions being late as a risk, but he also mentions that it's due to heavy congestion. During a risk brainstorm, we are bound to have risks being mentioned that are actually objectives. Most common examples are project goes over budget, project gets delayed, reputation damage, and employee gets injured. All of these are goals of the project. You want the project to be done within time and budget and with minimal human injury. These goals are already defined as impact classes you score the risks on. But don't worry when someone raises objectives or goals as risks, because we can extract the causes of these risks as the actual risks. In our case, the risk is traffic congestion. Other examples of risks are, for example, this one, or this one. So here are the takeaways. Filter out the risks that are objectives and pick their causes as the risks. Ask yourself if the risk has a direct negative effect on the objective. Identify follow-up events that will eventually lead to affecting the objective. The event that has a direct effect on the objective will be your risk. Most importantly, nothing is wrong and all inputs are valuable. Sometimes you just need to drill down and analyze to get the proper risk description. Don't forget, the more often participants get involved in risk assessments, the better they get in identifying risks, causes, and effects. So make it more fun for them and get started with Risk ID, the collaborative risk management tool.
What actions can you take to prepare your community-based organization for the unexpected? One action your organization can take is to understand the risk. In order to improve your organization's readiness, it is critical that you understand the risk and limitations you face, then consider their likelihood and potential impacts. Is your organization in an area prone to fires? What will happen if a hurricane forced your organization to shut down temporarily? Are your employees prepared? Consider possible disaster events, assess your organization's vulnerability, and identify opportunities to mitigate risk. Visit ready.gov/open-training.
Hazard, risk, and safety. We all hear these terms on a daily basis. So and so a chemical, physical, or a biological agent poses a risk. This or that product is a hazard, or behaving a certain way is unsafe. A lot of the time, hazard and risk are freely used to mean the same thing. However, they are not. Hazard is the potential to cause harm. Risk, on the other hand, is the likelihood of harm in defined circumstances. But what does this actually mean? Let's look at two examples. First, potassium dichromate. It sounds scary, and it is indeed a hazardous substance that is both toxic and carcinogenic. It is used in some cases to analyze exhaled breath for alcohol. For this purpose, it is sealed in a tube. Therefore, although it is intrinsically a hazardous substance, if used and managed as described, it presents little or no risk to people or the environment. Now, let's look at the opposite case. Flour would not be considered by many to be a hazardous substance. However, if a baker were to be exposed over a period of time to airborne flour, he or she could develop dermatitis, conjunctivitis, rhinitis, and even asthma. So even something that is considered a low hazard can present substantial risk, and vice versa. Risk is always a probability, influenced by the level of exposure. To evaluate the risk, we have to take many factors into consideration. How, where, how much, and how long one can be exposed to the hazard are all things to be taken into account. Toxicological research can map the potentially harmful properties of a product, be it chemical, physical, or biological, and it can also set a limit under which exposure will have no effect. Based on this research, a risk can be calculated based on frequency, conditions, and length of exposure. However, some types of risks are hard to quantify, either because of the complexity of a system, like in the case of climate change, or because we still lack some of the tools to measure it, like in the case of nanomaterials. When there is no consensus on the level of risk, policymakers sometimes apply the precautionary principle. When sufficiently established elements suggest that an activity is seriously expected to potentially produce irreversible damage to health or the environment, measures should be taken even if the definite proof or the causal link is not yet formally established with absolute certainty. It is best to err on the side of caution. Nevertheless, the precautionary decisions should remain proportional to the potential but uncertain risk and be re-evaluated when new data become available. Indeed, the proportionality principle is and should be at the base of most legal thinking. Now, how can we manage a risk? Risk can thus be managed by limiting exposure to a danger and by the adoption of risk reduction measures. Prevention might be a better idea to reduce risk. For example, driving has been made safer by speed limits, the use of seatbelts, bumpers, airbags, driver assistance systems, etc. But what is considered safe? Acceptable safety levels greatly depend on where you are on the planet, culture, socio-economic criteria, and the sector. Similarly, the safety limit adopted for a pesticide like DDT has to be balanced with its importance in safeguarding health or food resources in some regions of the world. For each specific case, an acceptable safety level has to be determined. This is thus not only a technical, but also a political decision. Even if the previous steps are logical, what is considered safe has to take into account the perception and acceptance of risk. These tend to be emotional and rational at the same time. For example, flying is commonly considered a greater risk than driving, although all statistics point to the contrary. Moreover, once a perception of risk sets in, it is very hard to change, even if all evidence points to the opposite. For example, fear can be fueled by debatable science and poor or even sensationalist interpretation of a study by the media. A very limited study that indicates that substance A could be harmful to mice and would merit further research quickly turns into a "Substance A kills" headline. Once fear sets in, even if risk is not proven, the precautionary principle is often pulled out of the hat. In a nutshell, risk and perception of risk are not always aligned. This can make political decisions difficult to make. In these cases, it is especially important to base them on facts rather than on opinions. These facts can be gathered from scientific reports published by reference institutions, but these reports are often written in a technical language that is not accessible to anyone but the specialists. Green Facts offers faithful summaries of those reports so that non-specialists can get the
Okay, so what we understood till now, who can narrate it in the short? Any volunteer? So what is risk? Who can tell in short now? Or we'll continue same? So example I will give, suppose you are studying on a table and you got a pain in your head and you are sitting on a chair. So in this case, what is risk and what is hazard? What risk can happen on this scenario?
Sir,
You are sitting on a chair and study table, you are having a pain in your hand. So what risk?
The pen might slip and it might hurt your hand or something.
Okay, so when we do risk, so what we do first, we understand the risk, correct? So in our table, chair, pen, so we understand the risk factors. Then we'll assess how it will happen and how to save from ourselves and how to solve this problem and how to be safeguard ourselves from the risk, correct? So it is a probability of the hazard which can happen anytime and which can do a harm to us. So the level of the risk we need to identify, and it is different from place to place. So in this way, we need to understand the process. Now, risk and hazards, they are often confused with each other. So hazard is a potential of a process or a substance which can cause harm to anyone. But risk is the probability. So to understand these both differences, we'll see one video.
The words hazard and risk are usually used interchangeably, but there are a few important differences between them. Knowing these differences can help us put our energy into significantly lowering risk, rather than on trying to eliminate every hazard. A hazard is a source of danger. Think of it as anything that poses a threat to health, life, property, or the environment. A risk is the chance that someone or something will be harmed by that hazard. The important difference to remember is that hazards are any source of danger. What we have to ask ourselves is, what is the risk? Risk is the chance that the hazard will actually cause harm. Now, I know that might not seem clear yet, so let's go through some examples. Stairs are a hazard because there's always the potential you could fall down them. It's as simple as gravity. That being said, stairs aren't normally considered dangerous, but certain conditions can increase the chance that we fall, which increases the chances of getting hurt, which increases the risk. Driving a motorcycle is hazardous because there's always the potential to crash and get injured. But the risk is significantly increased if you don't wear a helmet, because the chance of severe injury is greater. Working with electricity can be hazardous. If the wiring is live, there's a high level of risk. But if the wiring isn't energized, the work can be done safely. We all interact with hazards on a daily basis, from driving to work, to working, and even our hobbies. To stay safe, we just need to recognize hazards and take the steps necessary to reduce our risk.
Okay, so we understood now what is the difference of hazard and the risk. So in this way, we will identify the risk which can happen with any activity in our life, day-to-day life, daily life, like we are walking on a road, going to school, going to bathroom, water. So this can be the risk factors for our risk which can happen in with the few hazards which are routinely coming in our day-to-day life. So it can be any substance or the process which will cause a harm. So in order to conduct this assessment, it is necessary to consider any hazard that may be present in your workplace, in your life, in your day-to-day activity. So in this photo, you can see what is the hazard here in this electricity. It is a risk socket with wires, but this is a protected one. So this is a risk management protection one. Here is a spilling is there, which we are cleaning it up, but here there is no cleaning. So spill will result hazard and risk both here. This is a workstation, which you can see down, so many boxes are there, but in this, you see there is clean, open and safe. So these are the things which we need to keep on thinking actively so that we can identify and stop and manage and protect ourselves. This is the risk awareness, how to be aware of the risk. what we saw in this video, awareness about the risk at various situations in activity. So this is the one of the most important step in any risk. We have to be aware by understanding the various things associated with activities. So the understanding of the risk, awareness about the risk, so that it is avoidable, it is protected and managed. So what is the risk assessment? It is a physical and the mental activity. It is a form of not only physical, it is a mental and physical both. So where we'll do the process of recognizing, assess and manage. Dr. Ram. It is a combination of all the things that someone will be hurt and the severity of the injury or ill health. Means it is a combination of all the things which can happen. We have to assess the risk properly by thinking of all the various possibilities. Now see this one more video. Okay, so what we understood from here, various risks were shown in the first part, like a hanging box, walking board, and how to take care of those by having a proper think in the place. So this is a risk assessment, how to do it and why to do it. Identification of the hazards is one of the most important part of the risk assessment. Okay, so any question till now? So how to assess the risk? by gathering the information, by the process of various activities, by brainstorming, by thinking, by making a plan, by taking the action plan at the place. Suppose we are studying on the table, as I told. So what can happen? So taking care of the chair, table, books, pen, sharp objects, like playing on a ground, what can happen? So protecting ourselves from fall, injury, fractures happening on the body, different body parts, sleeping on the ground. By driving a cycle, bicycle, or some activity of sports, how to protect by wearing a protective equipments like helmets, protectors of joints. So all these things we need to think, because in our day-to-day activity as a children, as a school-going children, routine life, every place is associated with the risk. So as we saw the video on the walking down from the stairs, the risk increases if any hazards are there. Same way in our study process, in our life process, in financial process, money process, earning process, everywhere. So one more video we'll see now, identify the risk.
Making safety a priority at work can seem complicated and time-consuming. But there's a single simple tool that can also make a huge impact toward eliminating the chance of being injured. It's fast, it's portable, it's free. It applies to any kind of work, in any kind of business, and even at home. It's a risk assessment, and most likely it's something you already do, at least informally, when you're not at work. You look for cars before backing up in the parking lot. You scan for toys left out on the stairs before you step. You evaluate the ground under your ladder before you climb. Chances are, you've paused and said to yourself, someone could get hurt. That hesitation is a risk assessment. What if you turned this subconscious activity into a more deliberate one and applied it to the work you do each day? It could make a big difference in your safety, in a place where the risks are likely even greater. According to the National Safety Council, a worker is injured on the job every 7 seconds. Many of those injuries are caused by hazards that could have been reduced or eliminated altogether. But the truth is, even the very best safety equipment and protocols can't compare to the value of simply noticing, then removing the risks when possible. And that's where risk assessment comes in. And practicing risk assessment can make you the most valuable member of the team, whoever or wherever you are. How do you perform a risk assessment? Well, it's as simple as jotting down the answers to 3 questions. 1. What are we going to do? Makes everyone more aware to look out for themselves and each other. What are we going to do? How could we get hurt or damage equipment? And how can we prevent those injuries or damage? These 3 questions make up a simple risk assessment that can take minutes to perform, but save countless hours and costs in the long run. And since you've written them down, you can refer to them the next time the same task is on the docket. So, we promised a safety tool that's quick, free, portable, and effective. And now you have it. Now, take the lead.
What is a risk assessment? Risk assessment is the process of identifying hazards in the workplace and formulating control measures against them. A risk assessment involves 1. Identifying hazards and risk factors. 2. Analyzing and evaluating the likelihood of their occurrence. 3. Determining ways to eliminate or control them. And 4. Documenting your findings. What are the 4 key elements of a risk assessment? The Occupational Safety and Health Administration suggests 4 elements you need to consider when planning your risk assessment. First, scope. Are you assessing a product, an organizational process, a workplace area? Second, resources needed. What type of training, tools, and equipment does your team need to effectively carry out a risk assessment? Third, key persons. Have you identified the personnel involved in your risk assessment planning and implementation? This can be the managers, supervisors, workers, vendors, or suppliers. Fourth, laws, regulations, and internal policies. Non-compliance could lead to hefty fines and other offenses that can spell trouble for your operation. By determining these 4 elements, you can create a solid foundation for an effective risk assessment. How to perform a risk assessment in 4 steps. Step 1. Understand and identify the hazards and risks. A hazard is something that has the potential of causing harm to people, property, or the environment, while the risk is the likelihood of a hazard to cause harm or damage under defined circumstances. For example, the hazard could be an excavation hole, and without proper barricades and warning signs, there is a risk that someone would fall in by accident. Step 2. Evaluate the risks. Consider how, where, how much, and how long individuals are typically exposed to a potential hazard. Assign a risk rating to your hazards with the help of a risk assessment matrix. This can help measure risk level based on likelihood of occurrence and the severity of potential injuries. Step 3. Decide on the control measure to implement. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health's hierarchy of controls established 5 control measures for each hazard identified. 1. Elimination. Physically removing the hazard. 2. Substitution. Replacing the hazard with safer available alternatives. 3. Engineering controls. Physically isolating people from the hazard if at all possible. 4. Administrative controls. Changing the way people work. 5. PPE. The last line of defense if people cannot be physically removed from a hazardous environment. Step 4. Document your findings. All risk assessments should be formally kept for future review and updates. Using an intuitive inspection software like iAuditor can turn your paper.
Okay. So, you know, understood the process?
Yes,
Jana,
sir. Yes, sir.
Jana Jaiswal is there. She will present the topic.
Yes,
Yes.
I am present. Due to some network issues, I was not able to join earlier for 10-20 minutes.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can share your screen, please.
Yes, sir. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah. So one question is there. What is PPE? PPE is a protective equipments like gloves, eyeglasses, cover on the body. Like in the Corona COVID days, if you remember, all people were wearing some extra clothing on the body or the hands, gloves, caps, eye goggles. So this is a protective equipments which prevent the infections or the injuries or any effects on the body. PPE. After the Janya's presentation, we'll just talk in the short about the management and the protection. In the short, we'll talk.
With the hot. Okay. I like tiny guys.
Everyone, good evening. My name is Janu Jaswal. Today I'm going to talk about risk management. So what is risk? In simple terms, the possibility of something bad happening, something hazardous happening to you will be considered a risk. So in some cases, risk is important. So in this presentation, I have talked about risk in a business or about when investing, not in the general term. So we can also consider risk to be important sometimes. Risk is extremely important in businesses. When a company takes a risk, it can either make losses. If the company was big, if the risk was big, then the company may suffer severe consequences. On the other hand, it can procure huge profit and drag in customers for them. So how do we assess risk? We assess risk on the basis of 3 things. What is the likelihood or frequency of the risk occurring? For example, let's say food poisoning. So we go to a 5-star restaurant. So if we think about food poisoning, it is not likely to happen. However, if we go to a dhaba or an unhygienic place, food poisoning is much more likely to happen. Estimate the potential impact if the risk were to occur. Consider both quantitative and qualitative qualitative costs. So if the risk were to happen, for example, we take a risk, we should also be aware that yes, if this risk is not going to succeed, if this risk is going to go downhill, then what can be the potential impact on us? And we determine how the risk should be managed, decide what actions are necessary. So let's say there is a risk, we are aware about the risk, so we should not sit empty-handed. We should think about how we can mitigate the risk. So how do we manage risk? We can manage risk from 4 steps. We identify the risk, we analyze the risk, we treat the risk, and we monitor the risk. So the first step in risk management is identifying risks. So whether it can be starting or investing a company, whether you are riding a motorcycle, you are riding a bicycle, it is important to know that if we are doing this action, what are going to be the risks for it. After the identification of risk, we must analyze if the risk is worth taking. You know that you are going, for example, let's say you live in a house, and your school is a little bit farther from your house, and the road that you're taking, you know that it is busy, and your parents say that we can drive to the school. So it is your responsibility to think about that if you are going to take the cycle, which is going to be much more riskier, or have your parents drop you off. It is important to evaluate the risks. After that, we should know how to treat the risk. For example, if you know that this risk can be removed, we should do that. For example, you spilled water somewhere on the floor. Okay, if you don't wipe it off, somebody can walk over it and fall down. If you know that yes, this is risky, we should immediately remove it. And for example, there is a risk that we just cannot physically remove, then we should first be aware of it, make others aware of it, and monitor it so that we do not cause ourselves harm or others harm. Second, it is important to know that even after following everything, risk cannot always be prevented. Only what we should know that yes, if this risk is there, we should know how to prevent it, or we should know how to mitigate it, or we should know how to treat it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You have covered almost all the points very effectively. Thank you, Janya. Any questions from any student? Any question? Or we'll go to the management of the risk and the protection in the short one video we'll see, then we can ask the question. Is okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, so now we will see what is the risk management.
In this video, you are going to learn risk management. Topics I have discussed in this video are: what is risk management process, risk management approaches, types of risk management, importance of risk management, and limitations of risk management. Let's start the video. Before learning about risk management, first we should know what the risk is. In every business, from the small corner store to the large manufacturer, there are common challenges with insurance, claims, and risk in general. Fire can damage buildings, someone could slip and fall, vehicle accidents often occur, or losses can occur as a result of defective products. A good sense of risk in its different forms can help investors to better figure out the opportunities, trade-offs, and costs associated with different investment approaches. In the financial world, risk management is the process of identification, analysis, and acceptance or mitigation of uncertainty in investment decisions. Essentially, risk management occurs when an investor or fund manager analyzes and attempts to quantify the potential for losses in an investment, and then takes the appropriate action given the fund's investment targets and risk tolerance. Risk management process. There are 5 necessary steps that are taken to manage risk. We consider these steps as the risk management process. It begins with identifying risks. evaluates risks, then the risk is prioritized, a solution is implemented, and finally, the risk is controlled. Let's discuss each step separately. 1. Identify the risk. The first step of risk management is to identify the risks that the business is discovered to in its operating environment. There are many types of risks, including legal risks, environmental risks, market risks, regulatory risks, and much more. It is important to identify as many of these risk factors as possible. If the organization has employed a risk management solution, all this information is included directly in the system. The advantage of this strategy is that these risks are now transparent to every stakeholder in the organization with access to the system. 2. Analyze the risk. Once your team identifies potential problems, it's time to go a little deeper. How likely are these risks to take place? And if they take place, what will the consequences be? During this step, your team will examine the probability and fallout of each risk, to choose where to focus first. Factors such as possible financial loss to the organization, time lost, and severity of impact all play a part in precisely analyzing each risk. 3. Prioritize the risk. After analyzing the risks, prioritization begins. Rank each risk by factoring in both its possibility of happening and its potential impact on the project. This step gives you a comprehensive view of the project at hand and pinpoints where the team's focus should lie. It'll help you identify useful solutions for each risk. This way, the project itself is not interrupted in ways during the treatment stage. 4. Treat the risk. After prioritizing the risks, develop your treatment plan. While you can't expect every risk, you should have set up the previous steps for the success of your risk management process. Starting with the highest priority risk first, task your team with either solving or at least reducing the risk so that it's no longer a risk to the project. Effectively treating and modifying the risk also means using your team's resources properly without hampering the project in the meantime. As time goes on, and you develop a larger database of past projects and their risk logs, you can expect potential risks for a more proactive rather than reactive approach for more efficient treatment. 5. Monitor the risk. Transparent communication among your team and stakeholders is crucial for the ongoing monitoring of potential threats. Risks need to be continuously monitored to make sure that risk mitigation plans are working, or to keep you aware if a risk becomes a greater threat. Let's discuss some risk management approaches.
Okay, so this was in short the process of doing the risk management. So in short, just remember RAM. Recognize means identify. A means analyze or assess. M means management. So Dr. Ram, always remember RAM. So this is the whole course of all hours of today's session. So what as a children we can do activity from tomorrow onwards, now onwards. You start thinking, start discussing with the friends in the class, parents, any activity like mother is making a food in the kitchen. See what are the hazards and what are the risk. Father is driving a car. So what are the hazards and the risk? We are going in the school and sitting. Talk with the friend. What is the risk? What are the hazards? How to take care? How to protect ourselves? So in day-to-day life, keep on thinking about all those things and always think RAM. So recognize, identify, assess and manage. So how we can do all this analysis? So anyone know what is the black swan? What is the black swan effect? Anyone knows? What do you mean by this?
The definition black swan originates from a historical assumption that all swans are white, simply because those were the only swans that people knew of and were documented in books, until 1697. That year, the Dutch explorer Willem de Vlaming discovered black swans in Australia. Scientifically, this was something completely unexpected. In fact, this black swan event exposes a key flaw in our system thinking. We fail to consider other options and risks, however unlikely they may be, and put too much trust in someone else's strong beliefs. In risk management, the black swan theory is used as a metaphor. It describes an event that comes as a surprise, but afterwards we would think, we could have seen that coming. Take the internet as an example. How did we ever live without it? In order to exchange government information faster and more efficient, 4 computers were connected with each other in 1960, called the ARPANET. After its success, the creators of the ARPANET argued that they don't see any real use to connect consumers. 31 years later, the World Wide Web launched, and from that moment on, people around the globe are all connected at all times. Black swans, totally unexpected events with major effects, and in hindsight, we would claim that we could have seen it coming.
So understood? Unexpected event means normally swans are white, but unexpectedly they identify the black. So, like suppose you are going to a school, there are no chances of rain. All of a sudden, rain will come. So you are going for a studies. You know there is exam paper. Sometimes you may immediately come to know exam is postponed or cancelled. Okay. So this is a black swan, unexpected things. So this was the management, like elimination and substitution of the things. Again, this is a slide for that. Step 1 to identify, assess, control about the management. Then already we saw, then comes the protection and safety. So what is safety? It is a condition which gives you freedom from hazard. So you have to be safe. So full form. Stay alert for every task you do. SAFETY. Stay alert for every task you do. So you need to understand the process. Like other form. Search the hazard. A for analyze the risk. Find the cause. Eliminate the cause. Tell to others so that they are safe. We are safe. So we all are safe. So safety is the most important protective of the risk analysis. So this one last video.
Hello, friends. Today, we'll learn about the safety rules. It's very important to know the safety rules. Staying away from danger is called safety. It's the state of being safe. There are many ways in which we can be injured or harmed if we're not careful. We should always try our best to live safely and follow all of the safety rules. The safety rules should be followed at home, at school, on the road, and actually, they should be followed everywhere. Let's learn about them today. Safety at home. We should be careful at home. Do not play with things like scissors, blades, knives, switches and wires, medicines, matchsticks, or fire. These can be extremely harmful for us. For example, if you play with scissors, you might get cut. And playing with fire is dangerous. You may burn yourself, or your house may even catch fire. Do not touch electrical equipment like switches and wires, hot irons, the oven, computers, music players, toasters, and other electrical items with wet hands. It may give you an electric shock. Do not go near the stove or touch the hot pans and boiling water. You may burn yourself. Keep your toys, bags, shoes, and other items in place. You or anyone else could fall over them. Be careful. Never open the door for strangers. They may harm you. While most people are good, there are some people who are not and do not keep kids safe. Don't be tempted by people you don't know. Now, we'll learn some safety tips for school and outside. Always throw the waste in the dustbin, buddy. Littering by throwing waste here and there pollutes the land and makes it unsafe. It poses a big health threat to animals and humans. We should always walk in a queue, wait for your turn, and do not push anyone. Do not ever leave your school or go anywhere with a stranger. Do not eat anything given to you by a stranger. It may be harmful for you. Remember to inform your teacher or school security if you see someone suspicious. Be careful on stairs. Do not push anyone or run and jump on the stairs. You may hurt yourself or others. When you're on the playground, always wait for your turn on the swings. Very good. Now we'll learn about something very important, first aid. Friends, even if we carefully follow the safety rules, we may sometimes get hurt. If someone else is injured, we should help them. The help given to an injured person before the arrival of a doctor is called first aid. The purpose of first aid is to minimize the injury and future disability. If someone is injured, then in case of wounds or cuts, clean it properly and then use an antiseptic lotion. If an adult is there, ask for help. If there's a minor burn, ice cubes can be applied for relief. If it's a major accident and no one is around, immediately dial the emergency number. Now, it's time to learn something that is most important: good touch and bad touch. Friends, when Mama gives you a hug or Papa gives you a goodnight kiss, it makes you feel happy, comfortable, and safe. It is good touch. But sometimes when a person touches you and you get an uncomfortable feeling, it's bad touch. If someone touches your private parts without a reason, it's a bad touch. It's a bad touch if someone touches you and tells you not to tell anyone. If you feel uneasy with someone's touch, run away from there and tell your parents or teachers about it. Hope you like this video. Be careful. Be brave.
Okay. So, any question now? I think the time is getting over. So, any question is there, you can ask. Otherwise, we can wind up. Nothing. No one. No question from anyone.
No,
So what is
No,
the
sir.
what is the takeaway from today's session? Risk understanding.
that we should understand the risk and evaluate it properly and
Very good.
make
So
sure that there is no hazard.
yes. So from now onwards, think always in this process. And what is the solution? What is RAM? RAM: recognize, analyze, and manage. Okay, RAM for every risk, every process.
Sir, we did the before part of this in last class, right?
Sorry.
We did the before part of this in last class, right?
No, this is the today first class. We not done before this.
Oh, then
We done?
RAM and those questions I was not knowing.
No, today we done the quiz. Na, you just solve the quiz. There, these questions were there.
Yes, so I got like it's wrong.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where we learned before.
Yeah. So now our session, our energy session will be on the 24th November. So we will be talking about the MPTDS, the part of S, sales, in that class, and the MCQs on the MPTDS. Okay. If anyone is willing, please give your name in the group so they can present the session on that day also. The 24th November will be meeting now. So we'll wind up now. Okay.
So, sir, now next class is directly on 24th.
No. That is our class, energy group. Every Friday there is a class, but our group class is on 24th. Next Friday is also class is there. Okay. So class will be every Friday, except in this Diwali's day, it will not be there, but every time it will be there. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll be sharing a link and the message in the group also. Okay, we'll go. Good night. Okay.
Right, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.